going on in Europe right now. And we thank you for the resolve of the Ukrainian people. And we just ask that you would be with all involved and bring your hand in that situation. Europe right now. Interrupt it. Thank you for the resolve of the Ukrainian, and to be able to be with all of us during this very difficult time as we worry about what will happen next. But we know that you're absolutely in control, and we thank you for that. Thank you for each one who's traveled. Thank you for the wonderful celebration at the Ag Dinner last night, celebrating the best of the Eastern Shore. And we thank you,
Jim.
Continue to work in our hearts and minds as we do your work here in Annapolis. Thank you. And we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Senator. If I could ask everybody to please mute, that would be a good thing. Listen, we have a very, very, very full schedule today, and we're going to be moving through it pretty quickly. So with that in mind, I would like to get an approval for the minutes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So moved.
I'll
So
get you a
moved.
check for that.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is Congressman Harris with us?
All right, man. Take care. Yeah, bye.
I haven't seen Congressman Harris in the waiting room yet.
Okay. Well, what we will do then is possibly, Will, I see you're here. Mr. Pines, are you here?
Yes. Good morning, Delegate.
Yeah, I apologize. Do you mind us moving you up a hair?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Happy to do it.
You know what? We'll ask Mr. Congressman Harris when he gets on. We'll get him in after that.
Congressman Harris just got on, I believe.
I muted. Will, do you mind? We'll get Congressman Harris.
No, not at all. I don't mind waiting. Thank you.
Congressman Harris, are you with us, sir?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. You're on.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me speak to the delegation. I just wanted to bring up 3 issues that we're working on in Washington that I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have about any other issues. First of all, with regards to H-2B visas, we're anxiously awaiting the decision of the Secretary of Homeland Security as to how many additional visas they'll grant for the summer season, the second half of the fiscal year. We're pretty certain that they'll grant some. We're trying to make some efforts with this passage of the omnibus bill in the next week or so to try to help a little bit more than we've even been able to help in the past. So we'll know more in the next few weeks as to how whether we can. What we're going to do for this year, and then in this year's appropriation cycle, we will attempt to deal with it long term with things like returning worker exemption or seafood exemptions. We'll work on that, but that's a critical issue. Obviously, a lottery system to determine whether or not a business gets to basically fail or thrive is not the way the federal government should be doing business. So we're working on H-2Bs again with Senator Van Hollen's office. He's on Senate Appropriations. So hopefully we can resolve some of that. With regards to poultry, clearly the greatest threat right now, I think, is the avian virus. Fortunately, it is not affected a farm in Maryland yet, but it's nearby. And again, that could be devastating. So we're gonna follow that closely. We're going to try to get more funds put into the USDA appropriations bill for more research on prevention and dealing with the avian flu, because that's, could potentially be an imminent threat to the flock. Finally, the last thing that I wanted to bring up was the advance we have made in getting dredging for Slaughter Creek. We know that the Mid-Bay Island project for dredge spoils is a big project. And certainly basing the support for that out of the Eastern Shore would be very, very important. Key to that is to get Slaughter Creek dredged so that it has the necessary depth to handle the equipment that would need to support the Mid-Island project. And the Army Corps is moving along with that. So that's something that should be very beneficial, again, to the mid-shore economy. Anyway, those are my remarks. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions any of you have on any of the topics that come up before Congress.
sorry. I'm looking for, I have a question from Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to see you this morning, Congressman. As you know, with the situation in Ukraine, Ocean City has been host to thousands of Ukrainian students over the years. Some of them are reaching out to people that they have relationships with in Ocean City, whether it was their employer, their sponsor, begging for an opportunity to come to escape what's happening there. What process is happening or whatever? How can we help facilitate that?
So the issue, it's a great question because obviously, the J-1 visas are handled through the local consulates and embassies. We're obviously, our embassy in Kyiv is closed. Our consulate in Lviv is still open, but I don't know for how much longer. So what we've done is we urged a group of members urged the administration to grant temporary protected status to any Ukrainians who are in the country now so that they don't have to return home. Their visas will be extended. They will be allowed to remain in this country for the short term. And we're exploring a refugee status for people who are attempting to flee Ukraine. Again, the refugee status is still up in the air as to what that will entail. Unfortunately, I think the individuals who want to come to this country, my only advice to them is try to get into Poland. We have, of course, as you know, part of our military force there is actually there to process people who would be eligible for entry into the United States. But I'm afraid that the normal channels are not going to be useful this year for Ukrainian students.
Well, right. And these are students that have been here, have a relationship from previous years, so they wouldn't have been currently pursuing a J-1. So this would be more of the refugee status. So your advice to them is to get into Poland and wait for a process to unfold. That's right.
That's right. I'm pretty convinced that we will grant refugee status. So we grant a temporary protected status, which is for people who are only here, so that they don't have to return. Refugee status would allow them entry into the country on a parole basis. Again, to see what while things are happening in Ukraine, that they would be granted some refugee status here. And of course, both those statuses grant work permits.
So do they need like a host family here or something? Do they need somebody saying we'll accept them? How does that work? I'm sorry for.
That's still up in the air as to how it's going to work for people from Ukraine.
Okay. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Congressman, I had a question. We are all concerned about the Ukraine and some other things, but what are we doing? I mean, I've got about 6 emails on gas prices right now, and
yep.
It's insane. I mean, you're watching things go within hours, up 25, 30 cents. And what do you hear we're doing to try to alleviate some of that?
Well, Delegate, you're absolutely right. I mean, pulling up to the pump all of a sudden yesterday, it's $3.95 a gallon. Whereas we know it was $3.59 a gallon just a couple of weeks ago. We know the price of Brent crude went over $110 a barrel, twice as high as it's been a year ago. Look, unfortunately, until the U.S., which is one of the largest producers of energy in the world, until we clearly signal that we are going to ramp up production and shipment, the end is not in sight on this. Again, look, I disagree with the administration on a couple of issues, on several issues, but one of them really is that we should reopen the Keystone. We should restart the Keystone pipeline process, sending a signal to the world that we are going to step up. We're not going to depend upon OPEC allies. We're not going to depend upon Venezuela to increase production, certainly, hopefully not depend upon Iran to increase production. This is geopolitically, again, I think that's the right answer. But I have to tell you, Delegate, I don't think we get that answer for a while. I think these high gas prices are here to stay for a while, at least until everything shakes out in Ukraine. It's a dire situation there. I think that Russia will take over the country. I think they will install a puppet regime, and we're in for a decade of insurgency, of an insurgent war. Similar to what the Russians saw in Afghanistan. But again, until that settles out, the world price of oil is not going to be stable. And again, the president, in his address, he kind of suggested that the solution is just for people to cut the costs, cut the prices. But the fact of the matter is that we're not going to expect an oil company that can sell its oil for $100 a barrel somewhere else to sell it for $50 a barrel in the United States. That's just not going to happen. The solution is more production.
I guess well, you're right. I agree with you. It is more production, but when you start looking at the inflation rate and what we're doing, I think transportation is probably one of the biggest things that affects everything because the supply chain is that way. Is there anything the federal government can do? We tried to put an amendment on this week to cut the gas tax in Maryland. Try to help out with that. We did get a couple gas taxes approved or taxes cuts approved. So, but if you don't, mind maybe elaborating on that.
Sure. So the problem with a temporary, you got a couple of problems with the temporary gas tax cut because that's been floated on Capitol Hill also. First of all, the magnitude of the federal taxes are not high enough to make that significant a difference. For instance, this increase we've seen in the last week is higher than the entire federal gas tax. We could eliminate the federal gas tax. Our gas would still be more expensive than it was a week ago. The second problem is it digs a deeper revenue hole. The fact, everybody wants infrastructure, but the infrastructure is paid for through this gas tax. If we eliminate the gas tax now, if we even temporarily eliminate the gas tax now without a backfill, because remember, unlike the state government, the federal government does not have a balanced budget requirement. So if we eliminate the gas tax, what we're doing is we're pushing that cost into the future in a taxation cost. That's the correct solution is increased production, or we tolerate a decrease in the amount of infrastructure we're going to do for a couple of years. I don't view that as the proper alternative, but we could do that. We could take a pause in some of the construction projects, eliminate the gas tax briefly, but to eliminate the gas tax without a balanced budget requirement and without an offset, I think is just not a good federal policy. Your point is very well taken, that this increase in fuel, even if you don't own a car, even if you don't drive, you're going to be paying for this in everything that you do, whether it's buying food, buying clothing, buying anything in that supply chain depends upon this price of gas. And with diesel now approaching, $4.50, $4.75, even $5 a gallon in a lot of places on the East Coast, that's going to ripple through pretty quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions for the congressman from the group? No? Congressman, I don't see anybody's hands up at this point. I do appreciate you coming on board with us.
Larry Walton's trying to get your attention.
Thank you. I appreciate seeing you last night. It was great having you. I guess we'll move on to the next part of our agenda. Thank you, Senator.
And again,
thank you, Congressman.
Yeah, but my congratulations again to the Eck family of the Eastern Shore. I mean, very clearly being named governors to the Governor's Hall of Fame, Agricultural Hall of Fame is a big honor. And it's great that it came right out of the 1st Congressional District. Anytime any of you have an issue, please contact the staff. Our staff on the Eastern Shore, please contact them sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, appreciate it. Moving forward, Will Pines, sir, are you with us?
Yes.
Thanks.
Good morning, Chairman and Vice Chairman and members of the Eastern Shore delegation. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is Will Pines, and I'm the Acting Executive Director for the Maryland Transportation Authority. I'm pleased to join you. I was pleased to join you at the January Eastern Shore delegation meeting and have some updates for you since that meeting. Several of you have expressed interest in the ongoing Tier 1 NEPA study for the Bay Crossing study and the possibility of starting the Tier 2 study. MDTA is working through the federally required National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA process. The federal NEPA process applies to all projects potentially receiving federal funding or approval. The Bay Crossing study is using a 2-tiered NEPA process. The MDTA anticipate that the combined final environmental impact statement and record of decision will be completed at the end of this month or early April, which will include the Tier 1 portion of the NEPA study. Completion of the Tier 1 does not presume the initiation of the Tier 2 NEPA study, since no funding has been identified at this time. Alternates, including replacement of the current bridge or bridges and a new Bay Bridge crossing structure, would be evaluated in a potential future Tier 2 study, depending on potential funding for advancing that study. And additionally, other alternates like bus rapid transit, ferry service, and other transportation management options would be evaluated in combination with alternatives. While the funding hasn't been identified, some counties have already requested funding prioritization to advance the NEPA Tier 2. Queen Anne's County is taking a lead on rallying support for advancing that Tier 2 study and has received a number of resolutions from other counties in support of the replacement Bay Bridge span at the current location. The MDTA anticipates that several counties will include this request in their CTP priority letters, which are due on April 1st, and we will be evaluating what support there is for the Tier 2 study as the CTP process moves forward. Now, on to the topic of tolling. Several of you have raised concerns about tolling at the Hayden Bridge. We've checked the equipment accuracy and customer billings, and based on our most recent check, the equipment read was at 99.96% accurate. So we don't believe this is an equipment issue. However, we found that many customers have a Hayden A plan and they've generated tolls on other facilities. The Hayden A plan is designed for exclusive use at the Hayden Bridge. And for this reasons, customers' accounts have become unfunded due to the tolls on other facilities. And by the terms and conditions of Easy Pass, the accounts were switched to inactive status. This resulted in the customers receiving video tolls both at the Hayden Bridge and other facilities. We have revisited this business rule and have decided to issue customers credits for their tolls at Hayden Bridge for their prepaid plan. However, the customers will remain responsible for their tolls at other facilities and will need to have their account back in good standing in order to renew their future Hayden plans. We also highly encourage, if possible, that you may help your constituents understand the difference between the Hayden A and Hayden B plan, where the Hayden B plan allows for Easy Pass use at other facilities and they get the reduced toll rate on their Easy Pass account. Hayden A does not require a prepaid balance on it, and that's why many customers elect to use it. But by not having a prepaid balance, it does result in their accounts going negative and being unfunded. And so a Hayden B plan with all electronic tolling may be a better choice for them. We'll be sending out notices to those customers that with this information, along with posting the credits, and many have already received those credits. Now for the customer assistance plan, in response to requests of the MDTA board, Governor Hogan, MDTA customers, and many of you, on February 24, 2022, the MDTA board approved a customer assistance plan. Secretary Ports shared details of this program with all of the legislature, along with the recommended letter to help elected officials share with constituents the most common tolling challenges. We believe the plan addresses the three key requests from our customers that we hear. One is to have more time to pay outstanding tolls. Two is to have additional time to pay outstanding tolls without further consequences of late fees. And three, to be able to get through to our call center in a timely fashion. This plan has four main components. First, it immediately discontinues referrals of toll bills to CCU and MDOT Motor Vehicle Administration. This provides customers with a grace period to spread out their payments of unpaid video tolls at the customer's convenience while avoiding further escalations. Essentially, this acts as a temporary payment plan by allowing customers to stretch out their payments over the waiver period, which is over 9 months, and without the worry of further consequences. Secondly, with some exclusion, the plan establishes a civil penalty waiver grace period that waives civil penalties for all customers who pay all unpaid tolls by midnight on November 30th, 2022. So between February 24th and midnight November 30th, for every unpaid video toll transaction that's paid in full, the corresponding civil penalty will be waived. This plan would open up the potential for civil penalty waivers for payments on any outstanding video tolls during the grace period, including historical tolls, so things that even predated the pandemic, the actual pandemic backlog, which I had updated you on at the last Eastern Shore delegation meeting in January, and the day-to-day current transactions that customers incur. Under the proposed plan, customers would remain responsible for paying their outstanding toll amount in full, with only the associated civil penalty amounts being waived during the grace period. While the MDTA board has the limited statutory authority to provide waivers, the elimination of tolls or free passage is prohibited by the MDTA trust agreement. Furthermore, toll payments are a condition of the civil penalty waivers to ensure that the toll payments are actually made. The third aspect of the plan is that we will work with our toll vendor to increase the number of customer service agents to reduce call and web chat wait times. The MDTA is currently working with its customer center vendor to bring on subcontractors to assist with significantly boosting the call center resources to get call times down to acceptable standards, and particularly while we close out backlog processing and through the grace period. We now have over 200 call agents, which is up from 63 that we had last November and in the fall. However, we recognize that there is a lot more work to be done to further reduce call wait times. Call wait times are declining with the increasing staffing, but the customer assistance plan will really help us to boost that even further. And the final aspect of the plan is that we're going to work on a longer term option for us to offer a payment plan opportunity. That requires MDTA board approval, BPW approval, agreements with a vendor, and regulations to be established to be able to implement the payment options. So that's a longer term thing for us to work through all of the details. The customer assistance plan is financially affordable to the agency, meets our trust agreement requirements of not offering free passage, and offers other financial benefits beyond customer service benefits, like including further customer education on paying video tolls, using the Drive Easy MD website, and learning about the 15% early payment discount. We encourage you to share this information with your constituents, particularly the information that Secretary Ports provided. And the details of the plan are available on our website and on the Drive Easy MD website, along with frequently asked questions that we expect that our customers may need help with. And finally, I just want to update you on the backlog status of transactions from prior pause. The MDTA is well on its way to eliminating the backlog of transactions. The processing of backlog transactions is 99% complete for Easy Pass transactions and 91% complete on posting video and image toll transactions to customers' accounts with notices of toll due. And those notices of toll due we're expecting will be mailed out by summer of 2022. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
And I'm happy to have one for you. I have Senator Steve Hershey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Pines, thank you very much, and your staff. I know it's been a rough few months with the number of complaints and the service that we needed. But I do want to thank you for your ability to communicate with us and your staff's ability to communicate with us. Thank you also to the board for the recent decisions that they made. But one question regarding that, many people have called us and said that they were, in their words, forced to pay the civil penalties based on, again, the backlog and a number of errors that were really no fault of theirs. As we're moving forward, you have provided a grace period. My question is there any way to provide that retroactively or reimburse anybody that had to pay the civil fines as a result of what could have been late mail, what could have been a number of different situations when all of this had first kind of gotten underway.
Yeah, Senator, thank you for your question. The MDTA board has the statutory authority to enact policy for the MDTA. And much like legislation, any policy that they put forward has to have an effective date. So we couldn't have something effective before their approval on the 24th. However, with that said, I think it's really important to note that MDTA already has the ability to issue customers refunds on a case-by-case basis if the customer believes that they were mistreated in any way, or that they were erroneously charged something, or as you said, they had challenges with mailing, or whatever the case may be. We evaluate those on a case-by-case basis and have a strong track record of issuing credits to customers, waivers, and handling them as appropriate on a case-by-case basis. So one of the key aspects of the customer assistance plan is to make it easy to reach us. You know, I talked about expanding the call center resources. We've already done a lot there. We're going to do a lot more over the coming months to make sure that it's much easier to get a hold of us. And if a customer reaches out and believes that they are meritorious of a refund, they talk to us about it, and we agree with them, we will absolutely issue them. The reason that the board did not include a retroactive refund that was wholesale is there's just so many different circumstances that we have. You know, MDTA processes 150 million transactions every year. We have very large commercial accounts, some of them with hundreds of thousands of dollars in tolls. We have customers that have been escalated to central collections that have debt for many years. There were court decisions where the court decided the liability of the customer. And I mean, I could go on. And so I'm not in any way trying to say that you know, we will not consider refunds. We absolutely will issue refunds on a fair basis with customers, but we do need to evaluate those on a case-by-case basis. And okay. I think the last point.
I appreciate that, and I think I know where we are with that, what we can do from a constituent service basis on that. But I do have one other question. It was about the first thing that you spoke about, finalizing the Tier 1 study for the Bay Bridge and moving into the Tier 2. My question was, you know, where this funding for Tier 2 study comes from. And I'm a little concerned that you mentioned that you'd be waiting for the counties to issue their transportation priorities to see if this is something that could be put in the transportation CPI or CTP based on their request. I don't understand why this is not a statewide initiative, why funding is not in place for the Tier 2 study already. We've known for many years that this was a long process that was expensive, but why isn't this funded already, and where will the funding be coming from? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So in terms of the question about where the funding would come from, the MDTA, because of the magnitude of the project, we are looking at opportunities with the infrastructure bill funding to see if we would be able to leverage funds there for the program. However, if that's not an option, the funding for it would come from MDTA revenues and be part of our budget through the normal CTP process. So typically, the MDTA, as you probably know, we are self-funded. We don't receive any money from gas tax or the Transportation Trust Fund. All of our funds come from the toll revenues that we collect at our facilities. And so those revenues are, you know, pledged to our bondholders, and we prepare that budget every year based on the CTP process. Now, to answer your second part of your question about how do we sort of pick the projects, right? And why is why isn't this just naturally a statewide priority? Well, candidly, last year's priority letters, if I would encourage you to go back and read those, the Queen Anne's County priority letter made it very clear that a consideration of advancing a tier 2 study was a priority for them, while Anne Arundel County made it very clear that that was not a priority for them. And in fact, they were opposed to advancing a replacement bridge. And so it becomes a lot more challenging when we're trying to prioritize projects to make sure that we're picking projects that are what our stakeholders identify as the most important needs of the counties. And so that's certainly part of the CTP process. It's always been part of the process. And so we need to look at what they say. Now, most recently, I do want to, full disclosure, make sure I'm clear. Anne Arundel County has signed a resolution in support of constructing a replacement Bay Bridge at the existing location. And so it's very possible that their priority letter from last year may change, but all of those kind of things need to be taken into consideration when selecting projects as part of the CTP process.
Well, Mr. Pines, and just my final point, we've seen statewide projects in Maryland move forward. We've seen projects on the I-270 corridor try to move forward. We've seen projects on the American Legion Bridge try to move forward that were statewide projects that were not necessarily high on the priority list of, let's say, Montgomery County. So I just don't, and you don't have to, a long answer, but I just don't understand how this is not a statewide project. If you're waiting around to see if Baltimore City puts the Chesapeake Bay Tier 2 study on their transportation priority list, it ain't gonna happen. So, this is a statewide project. It's not a Queen Anne's County project. It's not a Anne Arundel County project. And I think it needs to be addressed that way. And I'm really disappointed to hear that we have not tracked down a funding source to go straight to Tier 2. Tier 1 has been delayed for many, many years. I know we blame COVID on it, but this has been a priority throughout, at least the last 8 years. And I have just not seen it move forward the way that it needs to. So thanks. I appreciate being able to make those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. You okay with that, Will? Or you have a comment?
Certainly if Baltimore City is supportive of the Tier 2, that is another helpful factor. But we're not expecting that. We're really looking primarily for the stakeholders who would be immediately impacted by the project to confirm that it is a priority for them.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You know what, moving forward, I do appreciate you coming back. I appreciate the work that's been done on this for us. I think MDTA is listening, but I do think the senator has raised some concerns about the other issues with the Bay Bridge and what have you. Any other comments or questions from the good of the order? Well, again, appreciate it. We have, like I said, we have a tight schedule. Appreciate you coming in. Hopefully we'll have some positive news moving forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right. At this time, we have our Eastern Shore hospices. Heather Guerreri, are you out there? How are you?
Hi, good. Good morning, Chairman
Welcome.
and delegation. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on your agenda today to give you an annual update on hospice and palliative care on the shore. First, I'd like to do introductions. I'm Heather Guerreri, CEO of Compass and President of the Hospice and Palliative Network of Maryland Board. Today, I have with me to present Chris Shakoris, CEO of Talbot Hospice and Treasurer of the Hospice and Palliative Network of Maryland Board, as well as Monica Escalante, CEO of Coastal Hospice and board member and co-chair of the Public Policy Committee for the Hospice and Palliative Care Network of Maryland. In addition, on the line observing is Peggy Funk, the Executive Director of the Hospice and Palliative Network of Maryland, and I believe Dana Kaufman, our lobbyist for the network. Chris, Monica, and I collaborate as hospice leaders on the shore and at the state level to ensure quality hospice and palliative care services to our communities and state. This presentation annually is just one example of our work together. Between us, we employ 325 people. have 598 volunteers with a total of 14,896 volunteer hours, which is an estimated cost savings annually of $400 and almost $18,000. Our total wages and benefits were over $18 million, which is a huge impact for the state of Maryland. Together, we have served 2,225 patients with hospice care in 2001 and 1,442 in palliative care at home, in nursing homes, in clinics, and in hospital settings. There is little reimbursement currently, so we use fundraised dollars to keep patients home and not get readmitted to the hospitals through our palliative care programs. We are a good partner with our local hospitals and physicians. The Hospice and Palliative Care Network has put forth legislation that Monica will talk about later in our presentation. We did send a letter from the network to the MHCC via email for your reference to our local Eastern Shore delegates. We also have had many challenges, obviously, as healthcare providers and in the hospice industry through our pandemic, and we have met them all. COVID has affected our length of stay under hospice, which deeply impacts our revenue. Short length of stay causes a bad impact on our annual budgets, which causes us to have to fundraise more and look at ways to cut costs while maintaining our quality of hospice and palliative care. Our census with the Compass in 2001 was 97.3 per day. Talbot Hospice was 42 and Coastal was 189. There's also been an increased risk for our staff, taking care of patients at end of life, visiting them in their home setting, having family members in and out as well, testing positive for COVID during the pandemic, which causes a lot of anxiety for our staff members, and also anxiety because they were also having to take care of their children, juggling in school, out of school, other priorities at home, while also being concerned at the fact that they may be taking COVID home to their families. We also have had the problems with families not wearing masks when we're in the homes or not wanting to comply with that, and other hired caregivers that have potentially been in the homes as well. During COVID, certainly it's not as much of a problem now. Hopefully we are seeing the end of the pandemic. But we did have very high costs for PPE and fit test kits. The prices went up, and thanks to all of you all for listening to us and hearing us through the state of Maryland and the governor opening up additional testing sites in the state, that really made it a great impact on our industry, that we were able to get people tested, have the right PPE for people, and make sure that our staff and our communities maintain safety. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris with Talbot Hospice to continue our presentation. Chris.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you again to the delegation for giving us the opportunity to come before you this morning. As Heather mentioned, we've faced a number of challenges in 2021 and are slowly emerging from the COVID crisis, all of us, in fact. One of the challenges has been around fundraising, and as all of you are very much aware, a significant portion of our operating expenses are covered each year through fundraising efforts, and that has once again been hampered throughout the pandemic in 2021, which impacted our revenue. Not only were events canceled and or postponed, our thrift shops were impacted and had a significant drop in revenue to support our operations. Some of our other challenges included our people who needed to be in nursing homes to serve patients and their families, having limited access, and in fact also fewer referrals because of the challenges related to the pandemic. And workforce issues across the board have continued to impact us. And as most of you, if not all of you, are aware, nursing positions alone as of January 31st across the state of Maryland, there were nearly 4,000 vacancies. And we continue to be challenged with shortages. Many of our staff, as you're aware, have left the workforce and remain home. They've retired, they've taken jobs that have less risk and allow them more flexibility in working from home. And these challenges are ongoing as we continue to fight to recruit staff, not only nurses, CNAs, social workers, and many other critical positions to support the services that we provide. Nonetheless, we continue individually and collectively to rise to the challenges and deal with the financial hits that we've experienced throughout the year. And we've done so in making sure that there have been absolutely no interruptions to the services from hospice care, palliative care, bereavement services, and other services that we all provide to our communities. Also, just want to again extend our thanks. We were all benefits of additional funding through the government, PPP and provider relief funding. That was significant in helping us maintain payroll, offset expenses, additional expenses as they resulted from testing, PPE, wages that have been under pressure to increase. We've continued to provide in-person visits throughout the pandemic, and we were supplemented with our virtual visits as well. We remain very hopeful that telehealth will continue to be a viable option to care for our patients.
I don't know. I just said I didn't make any changes. This is their letter.
I understand.
Alliance.
Hartman, would you please mute yourself?
Road Alliance, a 9-county effort.
Okay.
Our programs have grown over the years to continue to meet the needs of the community. Our teams have demonstrated tremendous resilience as we've successfully served patients and their loved ones, despite, again, the challenges of COVID and other issues throughout the year. We remain committed to serving and reinvesting in and caring for our community with not only hospice services, but additional programs that we continue to offer to serve the patients and members of our community. And on behalf of all three of our organizations, we just want to extend our gratitude once again to the state for making hospice a priority in the vaccination schedule. The vast majority of our staff have been vaccinated and few have been granted a religious or medical exemption. The exempt staff that we have are tested weekly at a minimum. So next, I would like to introduce my colleague and friend, Monica Escalante, the CEO of Coastal Hospice.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Although we are on Zoom, I feel that there's some degree of closeness in this way. I bring you a concern that is a big concern for all three of the hospices that are presenting to you today. And it's that in the months to come, the Maryland Healthcare Commission is thinking about updating the hospice chapter of the state health plan. Part of that would include looking at the certificate of need regulations. The certificate of need allows all of us, the three hospices that are presenting to you today, to be the single providers in our jurisdictions. And because we are the single providers, we have extra programs, all of us. We have palliative care, comprehensive palliative care programs. We have hospice that includes bereavement care that takes care of patients and the communities. And we have residential facilities that take residents who have no means to pay and they can stay in our facilities. So these are programs that we're able to provide because we are providing services to all the regions that we're serving. We feel that if new providers were allowed to come to our regions, they will not have a real incentive to go into the most rural areas. They might go to Easton, Kent Island, Salisbury, and they would leave us to serve the outlying areas like Smith Island, Fishing Creek, Hooper's Island, Rock Hall, Betterton, Federalsburg, Tigman, without benefit because they are not going to benefit from the large scale we would struggle to provide services for those areas if other providers would come and take the most populated areas. So this is a huge concern of us. We sent a letter, the Hospice and Palliative Care Network of Maryland sent a letter to the Maryland Healthcare Commission expressing concern that any change in the certificate of need at this point will be potentially harmful to all our operations. You heard from Heather and Chris, our revenue is down. Patients that used to be under our care for 2 weeks now come for a day or two at the most. In revenue, we get a revenue per patient per day. So less days, less revenue, but the crisis in the family is exactly the same. So we're struggling financially. Our staff is also struggling. On top of COVID, we had to increase salaries. Everybody in healthcare had to increase salaries, and we have to keep up with that. On top of that, many of our staff are leaving healthcare because they are burnt out. So we're struggling to keep the staff that we have. If new providers were to come, there would be even more scarcity of resources. I don't know how they would be able to provide services without having to hire from our own operations. So it would really jeopardize what we already have. The Maryland Healthcare Commission is convening a work group or is looking at the modernization and streamlining of the standards of the CON. And they want to reconsider the NEAT methodology. And what we want to present to you is the idea that everywhere else in the country where the certificate of need has been lifted and new providers have come to provide services, it's not going to be it has not been a good outcome. Moreover, there's a study, MedPAC, that did an analysis in 2019, and here's verbatim what they say. We have concluded that there is no relationship between the supply of hospice providers and the rate of hospice across the state. So more providers doesn't mean better care and doesn't mean that underserved populations are being better served. And there's plenty of data to look at that. So the 3 hospices that are here in front of you are asking your support keeping a stable regulatory environment. Change in the certificate of need process could hurt the care that we provide to patients and their families, and families that we've been serving in the most remote areas. We know for a fact that there's no unmet need, and we also are able to provide large amounts of charity care because we are serving those more populated areas. So I want to share an anecdote, or it's not anecdotal, it's actually factual, but we know that in California, where there's no certificate of need, last year alone, there were about 25,000 complaints. And the state could only investigate about 2,000, leaving the rest of the people with their complaints and no place to go. So that's what happens when there are too many providers and not enough people to monitor all the providers that pop up in all places around the state. So that's our ask, to support us keeping a stable environment and the certificate of need that protects us to provide services in all areas of the counties we serve. I also bring an ask for your support with the telehealth implementation assisted in our service that we have permission to build under COVID. So there's a different rate that we're paid for telehealth where there's video and when there's audio. And we would like to keep the audio because there's many remote areas in the areas that we serve that don't have internet, and a phone call is the best we can do long distance. We would like to keep that in place, and that's the support of HB 123 SB3 to include audio not only due to our specific population. We want to let you know that we opposed HB 581, the employment standards during an emergency, particularly the hazardous pay, those costs not covered by insurance, additional paid time from our industry that our industry already provides. We want to ask for your support with HPCNM. It's Bill HB 378 MH. the Maryland Hospice and Palliative Care Services Work Group. This bill will allow the Maryland Healthcare Commission to create a study to look at palliative care and how it can be better provided in our regions. So we ask for your support, and I just want to say the number of the bill one more time. It's HB 378. That study will lay the ground for better palliative care in all our region. And in closing, I think I mentioned all the bills that I wanted to mention to you. I want to thank you. Your support to what we do is absolutely essential for the success that we can have with communities at the most difficult time in their lives. Perhaps for most of the families that we serve, it is one of the most difficult times that they are experiencing. We want to continue to provide this service. We want to do it well, and we would like to enlist your support, especially with the stable regulatory environment at this point. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a couple of questions. Senator Carrozza?
Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank all of our hospice leadership and greetings to Monica from our district. Earlier in the Eastern Shore delegation deliberations, we talked about trying to have a member from the Eastern Shore appointed, a member with hospice background appointed to the Maryland Healthcare Commission. And when we pursued that, as Senator Hershey had pointed out, there are limits on the governor's appointments, given that he's in his last year of office. We were able to identify one opening in Southern Maryland that we had hoped that a representative with hospice background would be appointed. That did not end up being the case. With that said, because this delegation was willing to be on record to ask for more representation on the Maryland Healthcare Commission, and given the report we just heard from Monica regarding the certificate of need issue, I just wanted to maybe ask our hospice leadership with the chair, deliberating whether we should be on record with some type of letter to either the governor or to the Maryland Healthcare Commission about, the concerns that have been raised in this delegation meeting. Right now, it seems to me our hospice operations are at a pretty critical point. And it seems to me that we would want to be on record as a delegation on the importance of these services and with any deliberations at the Maryland Healthcare Commission. And I know that Senator Eckert and others are much more expert on the certificate of need issues, but I just think we have talked about hospice earlier in our deliberations that we may want to, and I don't know what the content of that letter or ask might be, but I think it might be something that we would want to be on record in support of our hospices.
If you're asking me if I will push for that, I will definitely do that. I think it's something, as you said, we've all agreed upon, and we all know and love and know the importance of hospice. So we'll put it on the agenda to maybe have a discussion next week and maybe move forward with that.
And could we ask our hospice leadership if what they would like to see in a possible letter to the governor or the Maryland Healthcare Commission?
I think you just did. I think that's a great idea.
That would be awesome. And we can coordinate that through Peggy Funk. Peggy, wave your hand. I mentioned her earlier. She's the executive director of the Hospice and Palliative Network of Maryland. And that's how the state hospices really collaborate together, especially through legislation and public policy and such through the network. Thank you for those comments. I know you serve Monica's jurisdiction, but again, we are all three of the hospices on the Eastern Shore work very closely together. And, the one thing I think is a takeaway too for everyone is that hospice, unfortunately, and palliative care has never been looked upon as a main source of healthcare. with the way that the state is trying to go, with trying to keep people out of the hospitals, for treating people at the right place, the right time, and the right way, hospice and palliative care needs to be looked at in the forefront of healthcare. We are a major acute care provider that enables patients to stay home and be comfortable, not 911ing themselves back to the hospital. And it will significantly reduce the cost of healthcare in the state of Maryland. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Senator Eckhart.
Thank you very much. And Heather, amen. You are exactly right on. And Monica and Chris, along with Senator Cruz, are certainly in support of all that you do. And you're right, the cherry picking does go on when you lift a certificate of need. We've seen it before in many, many different aspects of healthcare delivery. One of the things I would be interested in, I'll be glad to call Mr. Stephan up at the HCC to be able to ask if there's any way we could delay the review of these regulations for the time being, because there's been such a critical staff shortage. That may be part of what we would contain in this letter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is across the state and it's mammoth, as you well know. I also agree that the services of hospice and palliative care need to be factored into the total population health, and how that is studied needs to be an item on the agenda when that review of the regulations occur. So I just wanted to go on record as offering that. But in the meantime, if we're going to be looking at this for a letter next week, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to contact Mr. Stephan and see what we can determine, and then bring back that for some direction for next week's discussion. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. And Heather, if you all can get something together for us fairly quickly so we can have that discussion next week, as opposed to getting ready for it next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do, like I said, we did, and I sent it over to your office, Steve, but it was just this morning, the letter that was drafted by Peggy and myself to the MHCC. So we can kind of take that and look at that, Peggy and Monica and Chris, and tweak it and then get it right back over to you all. Thank you so much for your support.
No, thank you. And we always appreciate what you all do, because it is near and dear. I don't see any other questions. So thank you all for being here, and keep up the great work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great day.
Thank you.
All right, next we have up Chesapeake Utilities, Jared Shelton.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. It's actually Steve Bassino, Director of Government Affairs for Chesapeake Utilities. With me today is Jared Shelton, Commercial and Industrial Accounts Manager, and we also have MQ Riding, Manager of Sustainability and Integration. Thank you for having us this morning. Today, we would like to share with you a brief presentation on the natural gas projects that we have been working on on the Eastern Shore, as well as our environmental sustainability efforts. And then we would just end with a very brief discussion on our legislative initiatives. If you allow me to share my screen, I can have Jarrett walk us through the natural gas project.
I think you can do that. Go ahead. We are so technically advanced, I think we covered that share screen thing. Were you able? There you go.
All right, can you see that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Jarrett, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Thank you all. Yes, I'm Jared Shelton with Chesapeake Utilities. I am joining the meeting from our Salisbury office today. I'm a resident of Salisbury, Maryland. I'm going to go over some of the large projects, recent projects upcoming in our service territory on the Eastern Shore. I'm going to work roughly north to south. We'll start with Cecil County. In Cecil County, as you know, we acquired Elkton Gas in 2020. Steve, are you able to advance to the next slide? Thank you, sir. The Elkton Gas acquisition added roughly 7,000 customers to Chesapeake Utilities, includes some major commercial and industrial accounts as well as residential. We're very excited about the activity in the Principio Business Park in Cecil County, to which we extended natural gas in 2018. or 9 miles of natural gas main distributed to a large industrial park. There has been a lot of activity and some great tenants coming to the park, adding to the business climate there. And then further south in the county, natural gas has really helped two major customers that I'm highlighting here on the slide to thrive: SunMed Growers, Phillips Mushroom Farms, and they've got some major business expansion plans that have been in the works for some time. We look forward to being able to serve them and help them along those lines. The next slide. I wanted to touch on Dorchester County. Chesapeake Utilities has been part of the new Cambridge Marketplace. That's right on the Route 50 corridor there, running through Cambridge. One of the largest facilities there that we'll serve is the University of Maryland Shore Regional Health Facility. Gas services in place there, as well as other retail and restaurants, future office space. Hurlock, Maryland, we've talked to for many, many years about expanding natural gas service there. There is existing natural gas service to a couple large customers in Hurlock, but we want to be able to offer gas service to residences and other businesses. And so there's been renewed discussions there recently between Chesapeake Utilities and the town council along those lines. Tides at River Marsh in and around the Hyatt Resort proceeding with more residential construction, over 300 new units planned there. Next slide. Wicomico County, we've been excited along with the rest of the folks in the county, I think, about strides being made to address housing shortages, like so many other places in the country and on the shore. Real lack of housing there. Could you go back to the Wicomico slide there, Steve? But something I wanted to highlight specifically for Wicomico County, in addition to that, is recently the Maryland Environmental Administration announced a $500,000 grant for Salisbury Ocean City Wicomico Regional Airport for natural gas service extension to serve both the airport and the business park there. The total estimated project cost is about $1.5 million. The county now is working through details on how to fund the balance, and we're working with them on that. We have engineering designs that are roughly 80% complete. We're working on finalizing those. The hope is to have an in-service date for natural gas at the Salisbury Airport and Business Park around second quarter of next year. Next slide. And Somerset County, as you all know, we are very pleased to have natural gas facilities in service, in place, to serve UMES and ECI in Somerset County. They were placed into service September of last year. UMES should have their first facilities converted to natural gas this month, is the plan. There's a new pharmacy building there that has been served temporarily by compressed natural gas trailers, but then they'll be converting the pipeline system here this month. After that, the central steam plant conversion at ECI is scheduled to begin this summer. And then another grant award announcement, Maryland Energy Administration announced a $1 million grant to Chesapeake Utilities, specifically to serve the industrial park in Princess Anne. This would serve existing customers as well as new planned projects like Planet Found, which is an anaerobic digester project converting poultry litter to more environmentally friendly soil amendment products, also capturing methane for renewable natural gas that we can inject into our own pipeline. Estimated in-service date of that extension to serve the business park is about a year from now. And then the final slide for me would be touching on Worcester County. We are very pleased that we're continuing our conversion. We're converting Sandpiper Energy customers. Those are our customers in Worcester County, Maryland, converting them from piped propane systems to natural gas. As you know, we've converted over 11,000 customers, residential and commercial so far in Ocean City, Berlin, Ocean Pines. That work's going to continue in Pocomoke this year. Phase one is In process, we plan to start conversions by the third quarter of this year. Things are moving along very well. There's a little over 200 customers there. So conversion will be available to existing propane customers that we serve with an underground piped propane system, but it will also be available to other residents and businesses who use propane or fuel oil for heating, etc. And with that, I will hand it to my colleague MQ.
Thank you, Jared. My name is MQ Riding, and good morning, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the entire Eastern Shore delegation. I'm MQ Riding, and I'm coming to you from my home office in Still Pond, Maryland. That's in Kent County. May I have the next slide, please, Jared? Steve, thanks. Chesapeake Utilities has a core value to reduce our customers and our company's carbon footprint. In fact, we've been doing just that for over 2 decades. Recently, we have publicly emphasized environmental, social, and governance, known as ESG, as important factors in assessing current and future projects. In February of this year, we announced our Office of Environmental Sustainability, with Vice President Shane Brakey identified as our Corporate Sustainability Officer. This team will work on science-based systems to track emissions. We will promote our projects and development. We'll create a roadmap for lower carbon projects and system improvements, and we'll work with partners, vendors, and suppliers to manage the company's environmental footprint across our supply chain. What we're working towards and what we want is to be a leader in the transition to a lower carbon future where we operate. Next slide, please. Chesapeake Utilities has conscientiously served Delmarva Peninsula for over 160 years. We are a part of the communities where we operate. As Jared mentioned, we acquired Oakton Gas just about 2 years ago, and Eastern Shore Gas, now Sandpiper Energy, nearly a decade ago. Those acquisitions increased our service territory to include 6 of the 9 Eastern Shore counties, Salisbury being our anchor in the south and Elkton being our anchor in the north. We believe that energy diversity and new energy technologies can thrive on the Eastern Shore. Part of our leadership in a lower carbon future is investing in renewable natural gas, as Jared said, RNG facilities that process local waste streams into a local energy resource. Jared spoke about the RNG project in Planet Found in Worcester. There's also the Clean Bay project in Somerset. These types of projects are the future for our rural communities. In our own natural gas delivery systems, we are upgrading our facilities with modern materials and state-of-the-art equipment. We're doing this to be more efficient and to reduce our footprint right here on the shore. Next slide, please. So improving the Marylanders' quality of life is important to me since I am an Eastern Shore Marylander. Our company continues to expand our delivery service where we serve. We're part of the community. Prior to and during the pandemic, we've been a significant financial supporter of our communities and local charitable organizations. Just as importantly, our presence in the community, the commodity we bring is important too. In fact, natural gas is important in many ways. It is affordable and provides an energy choice for residents, but just as importantly, it is necessary for many commercial and industrial processes. Where natural gas is available, developers consider the locations more seriously. Availability can lead to more jobs in an area. A final note on quality of life for Eastern Shore residents: converting homes and businesses from carbon-intense fuel oil to natural gas helps reduce the overall carbon footprint of the Eastern Shore. Reducing the Eastern Shore carbon footprint sensibly is an objective we all can rally around. Thanks very much. Steve, please take it from here.
Thank you, Jared and MQ. So what I want to share with you now is some bills that I'm sure you are absolutely all aware of, as we have had a lot of outreach with most of you on the call. Obviously, everything that Jarrett and MQ discussed could be significantly hindered if some of this legislation passes this year. First, I want to mention Senate Bill 528, the Climate Solutions Now Act of 2022. The most alarming provision for us in this bill is it has the potential to ban all fossil fuel in all new buildings starting in 2023, and requires aggressive emission reductions in buildings 25,000 square feet or larger, including retrofitting. We are aware of some amendments that are potentially being proffered on the Climate Solutions Now Act bill, so hopefully those provisions will improve slightly for us, and we can continue to move forward with a lot of the projects that Jarrett shared with you. The House version of Senate Bill 528 is pretty much the same. The biggest difference is in the House version, the fossil fuel ban is on new commercial and residential buildings versus all buildings. At this point, there hasn't been any amendments that have been offered that we are aware of on the House version. House Bill 708, Comprehensive Climate Solutions. This bill encourages the replacement of fossil fuel systems with electric heat pumps. And the way that this is going to take place is by essentially taking over the current Empower program, which is a very effective program in Maryland that's used to fund energy efficiency programs. Then the final bill that we are working on is House Bill 11. This bill will essentially prevent the use of renewable natural gas to be considered a Tier 1 renewable source. So this bill could impact the projects that we discussed with you, the Planet Found project, as well as the Clean Lake project in Somerset. And with that, I just want to thank you for having us, and we will take any questions if there are any.
Actually, Steve, I might have a couple little questions. Oh, wait, Delegate Sample Hughes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. Chesapeake, thank you for being here today. First, I'd like to say thank you for your expedientness on helping to get the information that HERLOC needed. I know they had expressed the interest in that conversation again on natural gas, and so your employees, I can't remember the name, but nonetheless was able to get in front of the council. So at this juncture, what status are they in? Are they at the point of further discussion, or are they still in the phase of the survey that was put out to the residents and trying to look through that information and make a determination? That's my first question. And then the second piece is, I'm just kind of concerned about the project in Wacomico regarding the airport. I think it's a great opportunity, but I'm just trying to think about how the potential effect there, as you mentioned with the House Bill 528, would have on that project. And being that it's in this phase, just wanting to know contingency plans or any other thoughts that you may have on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, this is Jared Shelton. I could speak to the HERLOC question and the Salisbury Airport. I think the HERLOC question, my understanding is they still are in the survey phase where they're surveying residents and businesses in HERLOC. Part of the aim there is to discover where the greatest interest is among residents and businesses, so that when the utility starts a high-level design and then a more detailed engineering design, that we're actually planning an expansion that will be serving customers who are planning to convert or planning to use natural gas. As far as the Salisbury Airport, we are working closely with Salisbury Airport Management. I know that we are in contact with Wycomico County Council, which, as you know, has purview over the airport, to talk about all the different considerations, including proposed legislation in Annapolis. Part of the question here is exactly what, if any, bill would be passed, and what would the provisions be regarding commercial buildings. There's different provisions that could be in play, as well as banning natural gas for heat. space heat and water heat, but not perhaps industrial processes. It could be for only commercial buildings of a certain size, of which perhaps, most proposed and planned facilities at the airport would not be affected. But a lot of these questions are unknown to us at this point. But I do agree it's important for us to have contingency plans and be in regular communication with the airport management in the county, and we are.
Okay, and what was your timeline for that as far as the project? What do you, if everything, say like no House bill, no problems, what would be something that you were looking at to the goal to be for timeline?
So the timeline is largely dependent upon the county and how they pursue funding the balance of the project. What they need to fund in addition to the $500,000 grant. My understanding from them from the most recent communication is they would hope to have that question settled by this summer. And then we would proceed with construction probably first quarter of next year with a completion date of second quarter.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Chesapeake Utilities and all of our partners who really worked so hard to move forward with the natural gas line in Somerset County. It's been a total team effort. It's been our Somerset County Commissioners, President Craig Mathias. It's been UMES President Heidi Anderson and her team, and I see Jim Mathias on here. And that's something that has been a priority for Somerset County for, I know 25 plus years. So obviously it's a priority. So I appreciate the update from Chesapeake Utilities on the alternative energy projects that we have going on, which have been brought up in the whole debate with the climate change bill. I wanted just to give everybody a real-time update on the climate change bill. We were last night after our voting session ended at 8:30, which sorry to miss all of our friends at Taste of Maryland Agriculture. We were presented with amendments to the climate change bill that address some of the concerns I know that we have had about the proposed total ban on natural gas. But we still need to make the case for why it should be more than, instead of a single sole source, that we need our other energy providers to be part of the solution in reducing our emissions. So you're continuing to highlight those projects are important. Timeline, just to share information, and I'm sure someone else can share it on the House side, but we will be taking up these climate change amendments today after our alcohol bill hearings. I do not know at this point, I've been told we may not be voting on the amendments, but we are taking them up. So I just want to give everybody this update so we can continue the flow of information from our delegation and from all of our stakeholders. And again, I want to thank everybody, all the partners that work together to move the Somerset County project, natural gas line project, which is so important for the economic development of the shore.
Thank you, Senator. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking on HB 831, Steve, from Chester.
It would appear you're frozen. Jay, we can't really hear you. You froze up on us. Hopefully he'll be back with us. In the meantime, I just want to tell you, I think we're going to hear some of these bills in our committee today also on the energy. Delegate Jacobs, are you back?
I think I am.
Okay, go ahead. Try that again.
I got to get my metal hat on. That's 3 times a day. I'm hardwired into the internet, but I lose completely black out at least 3 times a day. And I don't know. There's a conspiracy over on the south end of this building. But
No.
Steve, from Chesapeake Utilities, again, we had a hearing Friday at 4 hours and 36 minutes on that HB 831, and you guys were in there all day, and we appreciate all the work you've done, on the shore to really improve our business climate all the way from Cecil all the way down. And getting back to the amendments, I've received some for some ag exemptions, et cetera. Are you offering any amendments? Are you tell me what you're trying to do from an amendment standpoint?
Yeah, so one of the things that is really important to us on 831 is obviously protecting the Eastern Shore. I know Delegate Hughes has mentioned that she is very interested in potentially discussing an amendment to carve out the Eastern Shore, and we would be 100% supportive of that. We're working hard with a lot of the other utilities, obviously, to continue to just oppose the bills as they are written. If we don't see an amendment for the Eastern Shore, we will continue that opposition as well.
Well, if you've got something, please reach out to me. As you know, what the chairman said, they're going to pass some version of this bill. And when he says, he mentioned that probably 6 times in the hearing. So please bear that in mind, that there will be some version. We're going to try to make it as peaceful as we can for us, especially on the shore. But it's very concerning. I wish the committee had seen your presentation today, 2 weeks ago before the hearing, and really see the difference that Chesapeake Utilities has made on the shore of making a big difference in their natural gas supply line. So again, if you've got any amendments, please reach out and let me know. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Final question, Delegate Mouts.
Thanks, Chairman. Just quickly, the presentation was very good. Thank you very much. Is there a way that you can email a copy of that to us so we have it handy? So that way, when we're discussing the impact and consequences of the bill or the proposals, we can identify them specifically. Is that something you can do?
Sure, absolutely.
And Steve, you're going to do that quickly because we do have hearings this afternoon.
Yeah, Chairman, I don't want to give you work. Is it easier if he emails that to your office and you?
It would be easier for me. Yeah, it would be easier to get it out. We could get that to the body.
Okay, I'll send that to you, Delegate.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Again, this is very, very, very important to the Eastern Shore and our delegation in particular. So we appreciate you coming in. Any other comments and questions? We look forward to hearing from you in the future. Okay, moving right along. Thank you very much, Steve. I guess we're going to do our federal delegation now.
Kim had to hop off. She's sorry she couldn't stay on. Neither of us have updates for you this week. Again, we just appreciate being able to sit in on these and let us know if you need anything.
Delegate Ernst, this is Mike. I have nothing else to add either. Thank you.
All right. Well, until next week, I guess I appreciate everybody's attention to this. And
I just wanted to
be here. Go ahead, Delegate Jacobs.
I just wanted to mention quickly that the Waterman's Caucus will be held at 4:30 on Monday, this coming Monday, not 6, because we're going to be on the floor at 6 p.m. The House of Delegates, we're on the floor at 6, so I moved up the Waterman's Caucus until 4:30.
Perfect. Senator Crosa.
Just wanted to give the delegation an update since we had the school superintendents in last week. There is a bill that is moving on the Senate side. It's a Senate Bill 362, Primary and Secondary Education Virtual Schools Revisions. And the concern with this bill would be how it would impact the consortium. And as many of you all know, we have a multi-district blended virtual program that 7 of our 9 counties participate in. And so we are trying to work through with the committee, with the chair, Dr. John Andes, as the executive director of the consortium has been involved as well, to see what we can do to continue to allow the work that they've done through the consortium to continue under this bill. So I wanted to flag it for the entire delegation, since it does impact 7 of our 9 counties.
All right, thank you very much. Delegate Hornberger had something he wanted to briefly go over with us. Are you prepared to do that, Delegate? If you're here. I don't see him. Okay. All right. Seeing as there's nothing else out there, I need a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good week.
Thank you.
See you next week.